We're joined right now by New Hampshire State epidemiologist Dr. Benjamin Chan. He's here to answer many of the questions that you have been asking about COVID-19 and the outbreak. Thank you so much for coming in and offering the information that you're going to provide to people. I have a couple of questions from people that have gone onto our Facebook page and posted them here. Katie emailed us a question about families. Is it safe for small children and infants to be around their grandparents?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, COVID-19, the virus that causes COVID-19 has the potential to cause more serious illness requiring hospitalization and can be even fatal in people that are of the older age group or have chronic health problems. And so it is important to protect that group of our population. And one of the ways that we're recommending people protect individuals that are more vulnerable is through social distancing. Kids, especially this time of year, can carry around many different viruses. So it's important to recognize, I think, early symptoms of illness and keep kids and people away from those who are more vulnerable. But in general, I think we're recommending that people that are of the older age group or with multiple medical problems try to still social distance themselves from others. Obviously, we don't want them to be socially isolated. There's a balance to be had there, but it is important to try and protect that group of our population.
Okay, and let's talk about symptoms because the CDC has put out a list and was talking about a cough and a fever. What are the symptoms that people really need to look out for?
What we have seen is that people can transmit this virus very early in the course of their illness. People may not have fever. People may not have shortness of breath or difficulty breathing. Some of the earliest symptoms might just be mild flu-like illness. For example, somebody might begin feeling tired, have a headache, have muscle aches. Those are all early symptoms that can be consistent with COVID-19, and we know that the virus can be spread very early, even when those more mild symptoms are present. Later symptoms, people can develop fever, but the fever might not develop for several days into illness, if at all. Coughing and shortness of breath and other respiratory symptoms can be more common. But people need to be aware that this is a virus that can spread very easily, very early in the course of illness. And so need to take extra steps, especially with this global pandemic, to stay home, stay away from others, especially those in the more vulnerable populations at the moment that they're feeling any signs or symptoms of illness.
So if you're not feeling like yourself, if you're feeling overly tired. Now, I mean, this has been a stressful time for a lot of people. I think some people might be feeling tired and overwhelmed and might mistaken that for a symptom.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to people knowing their own bodies and knowing when something just isn't quite right? They're feeling more tired, headache, muscle aches. Feeling tired alone probably is not a reason to stay home, but oftentimes people will develop these other symptoms: headaches, muscle aches, chills maybe, even before they might develop a fever.
Okay, another question. Teresa emailed us about the fever, and can you tell her what the approximate temperature range they should be looking for when it comes to fever?
Yeah, so there actually is not an exact temperature range. Some people with COVID-19 may not have a fever at all, or might just have a subjective fever, meaning they feel feverish, maybe they're having some chills, but the thermometer doesn't actually record a high temperature. So there's not a specific temperature we're looking for. It's feeling ill or unwell in general.
Okay, and someone else asked on Facebook, Katrina asked us, can you get it more than once?
We don't believe you can get it more than once. Once someone is infected, the body should produce protective antibodies that protect against future infections or subsequent infections. How long that protection lasts for is obviously still under investigation because this virus just came to our attention 2-3 months ago.
Okay, Christy on Facebook wants to know about the 6-foot guideline. Is keeping a distance of 6 feet enough that you don't have to wear a mask?
A couple questions there. The question about the mask. So anybody that is having symptoms like coughing, feverish, if they're going to be going out and traveling, for example, to a doctor's office, they should put a mask on. The symptomatic person needs to put a plain surgical mask on, and that's for what we call source control. It helps prevent respiratory droplets from spreading to other people. An asymptomatic person, someone who's otherwise feeling well and doesn't have symptoms, there's no recommendation that they wear a mask when they're out in public. The 6 feet rule, if you will, or recommendation is because we believe this virus primarily spreads through respiratory droplets, very similar to, for example, the influenza virus. And so if someone's coughing or speaking or sneezing, there are larger respiratory droplets which get expelled from someone's nose and mouth and then fall to the ground. And that 6-foot distance is meant to prevent someone from being in close contact with those respiratory droplets as someone is speaking or talking or sneezing.
We were talking earlier about when you are quarantining yourself, when can you go back out in the public? When is it appropriate to do that?
Yeah, so I think it's important to, I think, recognize the difference in terminology. We use the term isolation and quarantine. Quarantine are for people that might have been exposed to the virus, but are not having symptoms. So, for example, people that might have traveled to Europe, or people that may be a close contact of someone diagnosed with COVID-19. Those individuals, we recommend quarantine themselves for 14 days, so stay out of the public setting in case they develop symptoms. People that have symptoms of potentially COVID-19 need to stay home. And certainly if someone's diagnosed with COVID-19, there are now new recommendations for how long that person needs to stay home for. And certainly if someone is diagnosed with COVID-19, the health department would be in contact with them to help walk them through this. But typically what we're saying now is this rule of 7 days and 72 hours, right? They need to remain home for at least 7 days from when their symptoms began, and they need to be improving for at least 72 hours, meaning fever needs to have gone away off any medications for 72 hours, and other symptoms need to have improved. So that's part of some new criteria that the CDC has released just this week.
All right, Dr. Chan, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.